Okay, now let me explain the second category and give some examples. Category is about neighborhood pattern and design. So the first criteria is compact development. So this means the buildings are close to each other and taller buildings, usually at least 3 or 4 stories. So here's a super compact example, maybe too compact. Some people think this is great. Some people think it's too crowded, but this is actually very, very compact. It is good for the environment because it saves space. So of course you can see this, this mountainside is protected. It's still forested land because the city is compact. Actually, can you guess this city? This is Hong Kong. Actually, I walked on this mountain, on this trail, and there's a lot of beautiful views of the city. So this maybe is maybe too compact for many people. Here's another example. This is not as compact as Hong Kong, but it is still very, very compact. Each building is about 6 stories high, and the buildings are touching each other. What is this city? Okay, this city is Copenhagen in Denmark. Also a very lovely city. Everybody, almost everybody loves this scene. They think it's very beautiful. It's very popular to visit. However, we don't build cities like this anymore. Why? It's compact. It's actually good for the environment, and it's very beautiful. Why are we not building cities like this anymore? Okay, here is a bad example. This is not compact at all. This is called sprawl, suburban sprawl. So the buildings are 1 or 2 stories high, and they're very far apart from each other. So this means they take up a lot of land, a lot of resources to build this area. Also, it's very far from everything, so they have to drive for every duty. They have to drive to work, they have to drive to school, and it's too far to walk, it's too far to ride a bicycle, and it's so sprawled out that even the bus and public transportation won't come here. Okay, so super compact, compact, and sprawl. Okay, here's another bad example. They're copying American style. This is in Turkey. Look how far apart the houses are from each other. So again, sprawl was popular first in America based on car development, car-oriented suburbs, but all the many cities around the world are copying American style, although it's very bad for the environment and not sustainable. Okay, so one reason compact cities are great is because they actually save nature. Some people think, oh, this is too cities, too urban. I like nature. If you like nature, like me, then you want to have a compact city because the compact city saves the nature. So actually, this is me hiking in Misaoyama here in Okayama. Because Okayama is fairly compact, we have lots of wild natural areas very close to the downtown. So I go trail running here several times a week. Okay, so I think I mentioned before, here's Manhattan. Another reason compact is good is because the buildings actually produce less CO2 because usually the houses are smaller and they're next to each other. So this saves heat in the winter and it saves cooling costs in the summer. The compact areas like Manhattan. Okay, very related to compact cities is reduced parking footprint. So not having a big parking space like this. If there's lots of parking areas, surface parking areas like this, it's impossible to be compact. So if there's parking, it should be in multi-story structures or underground. So here's a bad example, a wide surface parking lot. Okay, so actually you can visit many convenience stores these days in Japan. Almost all of them have giant parking spaces. So look how much bigger the parking space is compared to the store. The store is about 1/12 the size of the land. There's no cars parked here. There's no trees. It's a huge waste of space. Japan did not have these kind of large parking areas 20 years ago when I lived in Japan. But suddenly they're building more and more of these, which is absolutely terrible for the environment. It wastes so much space, and it requires and encourages people to drive more. Also, I've never seen a single tree in a parking lot in a convenience store in Japan. It's unbelievable. America has too many parking spaces, but at least we have trees in the parking lot, which protects, it reduces the heat island effect, which I will talk about next week. So I think this is a very sad and terrible example. So this is the same place. This is Ushimado here in Okayama Prefecture. Giant parking space, waste of land. Okay, here's a good example. This is a parking tower in Germany. Actually, this is very good, but it's actually very expensive to build such a building like this. Okay, here's another good example right here in Okayama. If you go towards the station from Tsuyama campus, you can see a hospital on the right side. They have a kind of nice looking building. It's actually a parking building. So this saves lots of space because the cars are parked on top of each other in this structure. There's another good example here in Okayama near Symphony Hall, kind of close to the castle. The parking is actually underneath this road. So it looks better. The city looks a lot better, and it's easier to walk around, and it saves space. Okay, so another factor, of course, is public transportation. We know about this, especially rail. Okay, so trains are actually, they use much less CO2 per passenger kilometer compared to buses, and especially compared to cars, of course. So trains, here's an example, light rail train, streetcar or tram, which we have in Okayama. Okay, here's obviously a bad example, huge freeway. There's no buses that will go here. There will be, public transportation is impossible. Everybody has to drive if you live in this kind of area. So actually in Japan, more and more people are traveling, but almost all of the growth in traveling is by automobile. So this is actually a little bit old data, but you can see since your parents were born, a lot, basically double or triple the amount of driving in Japan. Okay, so here in Japan, they're trying to, of course, increase public transportation. Well, some mayors are. The government's still building too many roads, but many mayors are trying to increase the public transportation use. So for example, they had the free public transportation day. They're going to do it again next month. So I will tell you about the date later. Okay, so the problem is they make more roads and then there's more drivers. This causes more buses to come, or this causes buses to come less often, for example, every 30 minutes. And there's fewer riders because it's inconvenient. And then their bus comes even less often, maybe every 90 minutes. And then there are even fewer riders, more drivers. The bus service stops. And then there's more drivers, more roads, more CO2, more parking, less nature. Okay, this is happening all over the world, especially in Japan. More roads they build, eventually this starts the cycle and there'll be fewer and fewer transportation options for people who can't drive or who don't want to drive. So related to this is walkable streets. So hokosha is pedestrian, so pedestrian friendly streets. So everybody thinks this is very beautiful example. This is probably Rome, I think. I forgot where this picture came from, but everyone thinks this is beautiful, but actually we don't build very many neighborhoods like this anymore. Like I said before about Copenhagen, this kind of area is beautiful, but we're not building many streets like this. Okay, this saves space, and it's also very healthy because people walk around. The buildings are nice because people are walking slowly and they have time to appreciate the architecture. Okay, here's a bad example. This is in Vietnam. Actually, I visited Vietnam. It's crazy trying to cross the road because there's no crosswalks. There's not many crosswalks or traffic lights. So it's super scary crossing the road. Imagine if you have a stroller or you have a baby. Say baby car is stroller. If you have a baby and you're pushing a stroller, there's no way you will cross this road. Or if you have a wheelchair, there's no way you can cross this road. Here's another bad example. This is I think in China. So there's a crosswalk. So some students said, oh, this is very pedestrian friendly. This is not pedestrian friendly because the road is so wide that it takes a very long time to cross. And probably you have to wait at the traffic light for a long time. Also, if you're way up over here and you want to go over here, you have to walk a very long distance, wait several minutes, walk long distance just to cross the road, and then walk all the way back. So this is not people friendly, not pedestrian friendly at all. So later you will evaluate your own hometown. And remember that just because there's crosswalks does not mean it's people friendly, does not mean it's sustainable at all. Okay, here's another bad example. Here's a sidewalk. So some people say, oh, here's a sidewalk, that's good. Of course, the sidewalk is usually good, but this road is so wide, there's nothing around here. It's just empty land. Over here is parking. There's no trees. There's nowhere to go. So this is actually a very terrible place to walk. That's why you see nobody walking here, only cars. So this is not a good example, not pedestrian friendly. So a lack of walkable neighborhoods affects our health. So research shows that suburban people actually weigh more than people who live in walkable neighborhoods because they drive everywhere. This also affects our mental and physical health. So car-dominated cities trap kids and handicapped and also elderly, and also the moms and dads. The people who can drive are trapped because they have to drive their children, they have to drive the elderly everywhere because the kids and elderly or handicapped people cannot go anywhere unless they're driven. So this traps even the drivers. According to research, people who live in these kind of suburban areas, the kids exercise less. Also, research shows that senior citizens who live in kind of this area, segregated area where they can't walk around, they can't see people, they will die sooner. They have shorter lives. Also, long commutes equals more divorce. Why? Okay. Another problem with cars and not pedestrian friendly areas is actually deaths. Cars kill 250,000 to 1.3 million people a year. So this estimate is a very wide estimate because it's hard to calculate the data, but cars kill more people each year than guns. And it's actually the #1 cause of death for kids and children. And many more are seriously injured and are paralyzed. Everyone thinks cars are great and everybody wants to have a car, but actually It kills so many people. Also kills 6 million dogs and cats a year. Okay, this picture is not a dog. I think this is a elk, which is like a large deer. So my parents actually have killed many deers in America. So cars kill so many animals. Okay, also car-dominated areas are often very ugly and dirty. In Seoul, Korea, this is what it looked like many years ago when I lived in Seoul, Korea, actually about 20 years ago. And the mayor said, oh, this is terrible. There used to be a river or stream going through here. I'm going to destroy this road and restore the river and green area. Everybody thought the mayor was crazy to do that. They thought, you can't just take down this road. The traffic will get worse. We must care about the drivers and the car traffic. However, the mayor of Seoul didn't listen, and he took down the road and built this river with green space. Now it's very, very popular area to visit, and the air got cleaner, and the property values greatly increased because it became a very great area. Traffic did not increase. Okay, here's two of my sons visiting this area a couple of years ago. So it was much nicer than when I lived here before. Okay, many cities across the world are actually taking away car space and devoting it to people. So in New York City, they closed roads and now people are free to walk, and it's very, very popular. In Spain, they did this too. They closed this road and made it for people. Actually, I took this picture. We're at this road in a cafe. In Paris, this used to be a road, but they took the road out and built a walkway. Sometimes they make a beach spot, and it's very popular for events and much nicer for the city. Here's my home in Portland, Oregon. They took out this freeway and made a park, and it's super popular and one of the highlights of the city now. Also in Osaka, they're going to take away this wide road. It's 4 lanes in each way. And also there's actually cars over here, 4 lanes here, and more over here. They're going to make it a pedestrian area. So this is just south of Osaka Station. The plan is to change this into a pedestrian area. Okay, so sorry, there's a lot of examples, but changing from car-dominated areas to people-friendly areas is a trend in many cities because it's much better for the environment and people's health. Of course, there's also a bicycle network, which is important. Okay, in this kind of area, if there's no bicycle network, only young men will ride. Children cannot ride. Usually women actually don't ride in these kind of cities. So if we have a lot of bicycle infrastructure, children, women, elderly will also ride the bike. So there are many good examples in Europe where they prioritize bicycles. Okay, bicycles are actually the fastest mode of transportation. So if you take a look at this is between 0.5 kilometers and 5 kilometers. Bicycling is actually the fastest way to get around. So many people are kind of shocked that I'm faster than they are around Okayama. So sometimes we go somewhere, they drive, I ride my bike, and I'm faster than them, and they're always shocked. If people drive, they become overweight, as we mentioned before. And then they have to go work out at the gym. So in America, many people go to the gym, costs a lot of money because they don't get exercise in their daily life because they drive everywhere. This is kind of a joke because they're taking the escalator here. Inside the gym, maybe they're using step machine or bicycle machine or running machine. So this is a crazy waste of time and money and resources. Instead of driving everywhere, driving to the fitness center, using the machine, driving home, they could just ride their bicycle here, walk up the stairs, don't use the escalator, don't go inside, go down the stairs, ride your bicycle home. The same thing. Okay, so the next example is universal accessibility. So in Japan, sometimes we say barrier-free. Okay, this is actually a bad example. They have these all over Japan, including Okayama, but you have to walk up here just to cross the road. It's very inconvenient and difficult. And people with a stroller, like a baby car, or a wheelchair, or old people, they can't cross the road, or bicycles also cannot cross the road. This is not for people's safety, really. This is for car speed. So they're thinking about cars first. These bridges are not pedestrian friendly. Okay, next one is diversity of uses. So that means there's businesses and residences, homes, in the same neighborhood, sometimes on top of the shops. So this is very sustainable because you can walk to the business. You don't need to drive. Okay, this is called mixed use design with jobs, schools, and shops close to the home. Okay, here's a bad example. This is only residences. So you have to drive everywhere. Okay, next one, attractive building and street design. Okay, oh, in Japan. Okay, in Japan, they used to build nice buildings. Well, most foreigners love old Japanese buildings. However, these days, many houses look like this. Most of my foreign friends and I think it's very depressing. No trees, no garden, no Japanese architecture. We find this very depressing, and it's also bad for the environment without the trees. Another bad example. Okay, next one is affordable housing. That means it's not too expensive. Okay, this is happening all over the world, but not in Japan. But in cities, finally cities are becoming popular again. The price is really increasing. So many people cannot afford to live in the city anymore. Like teachers, restaurant owners, barbers, random people can't afford to live in the city where they work because the city is becoming too expensive. The next one's public gathering spaces, that like piazza. In Europe, Japanese, you say the hiroba. Okay, here's an example from my hometown in Portland, Oregon. This used to be a parking space, but they made it a public gathering space. Yeah, mall in Okayama, kind of public gathering space, but this is a private business. You can only come here during the shop hours, and you have to follow the shop rules. It's not really a public gathering space. Okay, here's a public gathering space here in Okayama. They're trying to change the park to more green space, so they put some fake grass and try to have some event where you can hang out in the park. Okay, so I'll stop here, and please rate Tsuyama area for these, not Tsuyama, the Tsushima campus area for these category. Okay, sorry, it was very long. I talked for a long time, but now is your chance to rate Tsuyama area. Okay, thank you.